There is a very specific kind of quiet that happens during a snowstorm, the kind where the world goes soft around the edges, and you find yourself outside in the cold, holding a tray, whispering crazy things, like "show me the good ones." Welcome to the January 23rd, 24th, and 25th captures, a 3-day of watching the sky, 3 days of stepping in and out of the cold, and politely asking the atmosphere to cooperate. Sometimes it listens, sometimes it absolutely does not. Earlier in the month, we had a beautiful storm around the 8th into the 9th. It was lovely, peaceful, and very photogenic. Did I capture any video? No. My phone was dead, and honestly, sometimes just standing in the snowfall like a woodland creature and enjoying my life choices is the best. So while that storm lives fondly in my memory, this video is from the later January system where the trays came out and the lights came on and the very serious business of tiny ice crystal hunting began. What you are seeing here is my point of view during a capture session. I tried to minimize sped up edits and really focus on what it's truly like. Just snow, trays, and me squinting into the winter void like I dropped something, because snowflakes are tiny, truly tiny. Most of the time we are talking just a few millimeters across. Many of them are translucent. Some of them basically disappear the second they land unless the light hits at exactly the right angle. So there is a lot of tilting the tray, leaning closer, squinting, and trying to angle everything into the right light. It's less like catching confetti and more like microscopic treasure hunting. You will notice in the footage that the storm kind of pulses. It comes in, it softens, and then returns to dendrites. And that's very normal. Storm bands shift, moisture moves, temperatures nudge up or down just enough to change the type of crystals forming in the clouds above us. Snowflake formation is incredibly sensitive. We are talking temperature, humidity, supersaturation, tiny shifts in air currents miles above the ground. Most of the classic star dendrites that everyone recognizes tend to form around minus 15 degrees Celsius in high humidity, about 5 degrees Fahrenheit. But by the time they reach the ground, they have been through way too many things. Some collide on the way, some sublimate, some stick together and arrive looking like they had a very rough commute. Part of this work is very simple. Looking closely, carefully. You will see moments where I am very still and very focused. This is not dramatic effect. This is me trying to decide if I am seeing what I'm seeing. A beautiful intact stellar dendrite or a suspiciously shaped speck of nada. The human eye is good, but winter light can be tricky. Translucent crystals love to play hide and seek. Too little light and everything looks flat. Too much light and the detail washes out. There is a very narrow sweet spot where suddenly the structure appears, almost like it is sketching itself into existence right there on the tray. And when you see it, it's definitely an aha moment. This winter has been very dry in Colorado. Beautiful blue skies, very lovely sunshine, absolutely unhelpful when you are hoping for steady cooperative snowfall. So every decent storm this season has felt very precious, especially moving into the dry summer months. I'm still continuing to watch patterns closely. Typically over the last few years, a very meaningful snowstorm somewhere around March 8th or 9th. Not guaranteed. The atmosphere does not take appointments, but often enough that I am side-eyeing the calendar just a little. Now, spring snow can and does happen, but spring snow is moist, very moist. Spring immediately wants to stick to everything it touches, which is beautiful, but for delicate crystal captures, the ideal capture snow is cold, dry, and gentle, the kind that lands softly and keeps its crisp edges. You will notice how slowly everything moves in this footage. This work cannot be rushed. Move too fast and you miss them. Breathe too warm and you risk damaging them. Let the tray warm up and the whole window narrows. It is a quiet little dance with physics and patience. Freshly fallen snow is actually about 95% air and only about 5% ice by volume, which is why a big fluffy snowfall looks dramatic but feels surprisingly light when you scoop it up. Each crystal formed high in the atmosphere through vapor deposition, where water vapor attaches directly to the growing ice lattice without becoming liquid first. These structures are grown molecule by molecule in the cloud. What you see landing on these trays is the original atmospheric ice crystals completing the final seconds of the journey that started miles overhead. When I find one that is well formed and intact, the preservation process begins quickly and carefully. The goal is to chemically stabilize the existing crystalline structure before sublimation or melting can occur. My work is built on a long lineage of snow crystal study and preservation. Wilson Bentley helped the world first see the incredible diversity of snow crystals through photography. And in 1979, Trygve Emilsen developed a thin polymer casting approach that made physical stabilization of the crystal structure possible. Modern methods continue to build on that foundation with careful temperature control and fast-acting reactive media design to wick into the crystal structure without collapsing it. But all of that begins here, with the trays, with the waiting, with the very intense squidding at frozen specks. Not every storm produces keepers. In fact, most do not. There are nights where everything is rimed, nights where the crystals arrive broken due to the wind, nights where the cloud conditions simply did not support clean dendritic growth. And then there are nights like these in late January where, if you're patient enough and slightly stubborn enough, the good ones start to appear. Tiny architectures drifting down like the atmosphere briefly remembered it was an artist. This season, I am continuing to process the successful captures and add them into the online gallery during the Sunday updates. Once each piece is fully stabilized, cured, and set, every finished piece begins exactly like what you are watching here. Winter does not perform on command, and snowflakes absolutely refuse to hurry just because we would like them to. So for now, I keep watching the sky, keep the trays cold, and we keep hoping for one more good cold storm before the seasonal shift fully takes hold. And if it arrives, I will be right back out there doing the world's tiniest treasure hunt. If you've made it this far into the snowfall with me, you are officially part of the watch crew now. No badge. We could probably think of a secret handshake. But really, it's just the quiet understanding that you, too, are willing to stare at something very small for a surprisingly long amount of time. And honestly, that's my kind of people. Because from the outside, this probably looks absolutely ridiculous. A person standing very still in the cold, hovering over trays, running around with them above their head, occasionally leaning in like the snow personally offended them. But what you are actually watching is a game of timing measured in seconds. When a snow crystal lands, the clock starts immediately. Ice is always negotiating with the air around it. Even when temperatures are below freezing, the crystal is still vulnerable to sublimation, to tiny structural changes, to the gentle but persistent push of physics doing what physics does. So the real skill out here is not speed, it is readiness. Is your tray cold enough? Is the light position just right? Are your hands steady? Eyes ready and tuned in? Because the moment you finally spot a beautiful intact crystal, everything gets very quiet in your head. At least for me it does. You stop shifting your weight, you stop fidgeting, you definitely stop breathing directly on the tray, which is a lesson most of us only need to learn once. And then it becomes this very small, very careful moment of decision. Is this the one? Is it fully formed? Did it survive the trip down without picking up too much rhyming? Some snowflakes look promising at first glance, and then you lean in closer and realize they had a bit of a rough landing. Others look almost invisible until the light catches just one arm, and suddenly the whole geometry reveals itself. Those are the ones that make your eyebrows raise. Those are the exciting wins. This January stretch had a personality to it, not a typical storm cycle, not a constant parade of perfect crystals, more like a brief little window of opportunity tucked between long stretches of very ordinary snowfall, which if you work with weather long enough, you learn it's actually very normal. The atmosphere is not in the business of providing convenience. It is in the business of doing whatever it was already planning to do. So part of this work is learning how to meet the storm where it is, not where you wish it would be. Some nights you get beautiful stellar dendrites, some nights you get tiny plates, and some nights you get what I lovingly refer to as enthusiastic little ice blobs that absolutely tried their best. And we respect them for that because they are going to provide so much for the spring and summer. But I do keep looking. And one thing I think people often underestimate is just how much visual focus this work requires. After a while, your eyes start doing this constant micro adjustment dance, scanning for symmetry, for clean edges, for very specific six-sided balance that signals a well-formed crystal. It's quiet and it's repetitive, and after a long session, you suddenly understand why snow crystal photographers historically had very strong opinions about lighting. Because lighting is everything. A fraction of a shift and the crystal either disappears completely or pops into view like it is saying hello for the first time. By late January, we typically see far more snow than this. I was already aware of how narrow our window was becoming for good captures. The season has very much been dry, beautiful skies, generous snowfall, not so much. Out here, you learn very quickly that every winter writes its own story. Some years are generous, some years are very stingy. Some years keep you guessing until the very last storm rolls through. And this winter has certainly been a bit of a slow burn, but we are still hoping for the sky and checking forecast just in case. Colorado absolutely has the best sense of humor when it comes to late season snow. There is something truly wonderful about people who are willing to slow down long enough to notice tiny things. And somewhere above us, right now in clouds we cannot see, the next snow crystals are already beginning their careful, patient growth.